As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and I am one of the hosts, and with me, he's too extreme for Marvel and DC Comics.
It's Yahel. How are you doing, Steve? Glad to hear just your one singular voice. I can't believe the ego on you that you doubled your voice.
I just thought, two of me would be just twice as good, And speaking of egos, how about that Todd McFarlane?
Oh, man. Yeah, so we're covering HBO's original Spawn's. It's not called Spawn the Animated Series. It's called Todd McFarlane Presents Spawn,
or just Todd McFarlane's Spawn, but of course I think everyone referred to it as Spawn the Animated Series, or just Spawn, because this actually did come out before the movie did, as we will see. And it's I remember it being pretty good, but I wasn't expecting to have a Garth Marenghi-esque introduction.
Yeah, that's exactly what the introduction reminded me of. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Just as bad, too. Almost.
Yeah.
Just as campy.
And I love Todd McFarlane, but boy, he's very Todd McFarlane-ish in this intro.
Oh, yes, he is. And we'll get to that during the walkthrough. But
he has the camera presence of a thimble.
All right, I'll just go ahead and say he delivered his monologue with all of the grace and charisma of a post 9/11 George W. Bush on Valium.
Oof. Oh my goodness. By the way, Stry did return. Thank you for returning to the chat. He said, Steve, you were slurping into infinite, but now you're just regular old Steve. I think he's referring to the way you sounded.
Oh,
your
good,
voice
good. Well, hey, as long as everything's sounding good now, thank you for the quality control. Your check is in the mail.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Stry, we would have noticed for a while. He said that Todd McFarlane is from Calgary, which is 3 hours from him.
He's Canadian? Oh, I never knew that. Wow, mind blown.
Is your mind blown that Todd McFarlane is Canadian or that Stry is Canadian?
No, that
or just that anyone's Canadian.
Todd McFarlane is Canadian.
I know.
I never knew that.
But yeah, Steve, I know before we had our little technical issues, you had asked me about my history with Spawn.
Yeah, Spawn the character.
Animated show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I collected Image comics, all of them that came out, as I mentioned in the Youngblood episode that has yet to air.
Mm-hmm.
They were always delayed, these Image comic books. So it was pretty easy to stay on top of them,
Sure.
Spawn, though, I remember being the one that came out pretty much monthly.
Yep, that's what it said in, I guess, Wikipedia, or I don't know. I checked a couple of sites to find out what was going on behind the scenes. Yeah, I did not read Spawn out of all the Image comics that I read. Yeah, I did not read Spawn. It could be possible that I just wasn't able. There were a lot of them that I wasn't able to get my hands on just because they sold out so quickly. I got a Wildcats, Shadowhawk #1. I remember Stormwatch, but I never was able to get a Youngblood #1 or a Spawn #1. And I got to be honest, I was never really that interested in Spawn. Spawn.
So were you always the unpopular kid at school, or?
Oh, please!
How dare you not be into Spawn? How dare you?
So obviously aside from getting caught up in the Image hype, which obviously both you and I were. You would just, as long as it had that eye on it, you would buy it.
Just about. I think the only books that I was no, this isn't for me. The Max, I just didn't like. I've never been a fan of Sam Keith's style. Mm-hmm. And maybe Wetworks when it eventually came out. I was like, nah, I'm gonna pass on this. And like, Wetworks, I think was like delayed, like
Oh,
I don't know,
years.
like
I
2
remember
years or
I had that
something.
trading card that came with a wizard or something that had the little
Yeah,
prism
yeah,
on it. And I was like, man, this looks so freaking cool. And then, yeah, it came out. I remember I did get a #1 of Wetworks. And even though it looked cool, yeah, it didn't really grab me. It was just like, it's another team book. What are you going to do?
yeah, yeah. But yeah,
But
Spawn the animated series itself, I didn't have HBO, so I
mhm.
didn't watch it when it was airing. I don't think I did at least. But I do remember, like, over the years, I've seen clips and stuff from it, but I don't think I've ever watched a full episode until yesterday.
Oh,
What about
wow.
you?
Oh, I caught a couple of episodes like here and there on HBO back when they would give the free previews, and I thought
Hmm.
it was awesome. But of course, I had no idea what was going on since it was serialized. I did like back when I had like a Netflix account when it was just DVDs. I remember I watched like the whole first two seasons. Maybe the third one wasn't available yet because when I was doing my research on this, I was like, oh, there's 3 seasons. I don't remember a third one, but yeah, like the thing with Spawn is that you can be like a casual fan and not read the comics. I'm also a fan, of course, of what like Todd McFarlane has done, but I mean, I'll explain why I don't like. Kind of was never able to get into Spawn. Like,
It sounds like he kissed your sister or something. The way you're.
no, I don't have a problem with Todd McFarlane. It's like, just Spawn is like, what? He's just
Steve, I'm gonna kiss your sister, Steve. Have you ever asked yourself the question, what would happen if Todd McFarlane kissed your sister? Well, I hope you do before it's too late.
oh
Anyways, for those that
man.
haven't seen Spawn, that's basically Todd McFarlane during the intro of
Yeah,
Spawn.
yeah. And me and my friend in high school who also read comics and I guess happened to catch a few episodes of the Spawn animated series, we would make fun of Todd McFarlane and his intros because they're terrible. They're super lame.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
here, let me pose this question to you, Yahel. let's say um, let's say someone wants to buy the Wrestling with Gaming, like the show, your documentaries or whatever, but
Uh-huh.
they want to replace you with I don't know. They say
Todd McFarlane.
they say you're getting too old or whatever, and they want to
Uh-huh.
replace you with I don't know, hot gamer chick or whatever. Would you make it so you have to like introduce every episode? Would you feel a need to insert yourself just so everyone knows that Wrestling with Gaming is your creation? Would you have to put your name before like every single title? Would you have to do that?
I'm sure there's a certain money amount that will make me not want to do that.
Yes.
But Stry asked in the chat, "Are you saying Yahel isn't hot, Steve?" This is a hypothetical. Steve
Oh, it's a
still
hype.
lusts for me. Don't worry.
We don't age here on Obscurity Now. I just want everyone to know that we're still stuck in the '90s.
Yeah, it's very weird that like they did this intro that because so I guess we should explain.
Mhm.
So before Spawn, the show starts, there's a live action intro,
Mhm.
and it's basically Todd McFarlane by himself in a room, like in a warehouse or something. I don't know
Well,
where he's at.
in the first episode, it's basically like a spooky, dark place esque dungeon or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's like,
That's a
are we
great way to
supposed to
describe it.
believe? And he's in there. He's actually like drawing a Spawn comic. Are
Right.
we supposed to believe that this is how Todd McFarlane like works on Spawn on a daily
Yep.
basis, just
Yep.
shrouded in like
In
shadows?
like purple lighting.
Yeah.
He's in a vaporwave hellscape creating Spawn.
Yeah, and man, it's gosh, you gotta wonder. It's like, did Matthew Holness like watch an episode of Spawn and craft Garth Marenghi off of Todd McFarlane? Because man, I mean, I know they're both doing like Rod Serling from Twilight Zone, more or less, but man, it is like
Right.
it is spot on. And of course, like Dark Place is a parody, but old Todd McFarlane is just super serious. There's no room for
Yeah.
comedy in the Spawn universe.
Yeah, he like, and the intro is basically just him saying, like, kind of saying, "Hey, what would happen if you were on the brink of death and the devil offered you a deal,
Mhm.
which was like, I'll save your life, but you have to be my hellspawn
Right.
and do my bidding." But rather than just say that, he's like, let me pose a question to you. Have you ever thought about what you would do if you had just seconds to think about it? But wait, you don't have seconds to think about it, so I hope you're thinking about this now. It's like, Jesus, just what's the fucking question, Todd?
Yeah.
Just get to it.
Oh man, I could only imagine. Like, see, it's once we get into the the IMDb portion, I noticed that no one is really credited as a director for this episode. So it leads me to believe it's like, did Todd McFarlane direct himself?
Well, I believe no, there's a director. Oh wait a minute, I was looking at season 3, but I do remember that there's a director in the the show itself. Like,
No, I mean, like, on the IMDb, it does not have a director listed. I mean, they have.
oh no, I mean during the show's credits they did have one.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I don't remember who it was.
Guess
but
I should have watched that. But is it Alan B. McElroy? Because he's like the developer and also the writer. We'll just say that it's him. But anyway.
Sure.
Should we dive a bit deeper into Spawn, the animated series? You have 5 seconds to think about it, or you can sell your soul to the devil or something.
But also, you have no time to think about it. I'm Todd McFarlane, and I sound like I'm being choked by a very weak person.
I'm Todd McFarlane, your humble fabulist. Like, all right, let's do this thing.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
Todd McFarlane Spawn. If you don't say Todd McFarlane Spawn, Todd McFarlane appears in your bathroom mirror and gives you a really boring monologue. Actually, let's start with the comic book. I mean, just to touch on it briefly, of course, Spawn was created by who? Todd McFarlane, of course.
Oh, was he?
First appeared in Spawn #1, May of 1992. And I have some more questions about your relation to Spawn. Did you ever get into collecting any of the action figures?
I did not. By the way, and I guess this makes sense, but Stry had mentioned in the chat that Todd McFarlane is now 61 years old, which for some reason makes me feel very old.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. It's
Right?
weird.
But you know what? Like, he looks great. Like, for 61. I mean, he looks like he hasn't aged since he was doing these boring intros. But,
He didn't have
I
to
guess
watch
that-
his own intro. Yeah, so
yeah, a
he's,
boring intro a day keeps a doctor away, is what Todd McFarlane says. It might be that great Canadian healthcare. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sorry. You had asked me about
the action figures.
oh, the action figure. Yeah, I never got into it. What obviously, like, Todd McFarlane, like, is kind of, I feel like, almost better known these days for his action figures.
Well, he basically, revolutionized like the action
Right.
figure industry. Basically,
yeah,
making.
he'll tell you all about it.
He sure will. Like, I mean, much like, I guess you could say, with Spawn, the animated series, which was animation for adults, which, of course, here in America, we don't really do much of that anymore, or even at the time. He started making, action figures for the older collector. And I mean, he's still going strong today. I wonder which one he made more money from, like the action figures or the comics. But I'm sure he'll tell you. if you
At
ask
this
him.
point, I bet the action figures, because, like, I mean, they do action figures for all kinds of properties,
Oh,
not just
yes, they do.
Todd McFarlane's own creations, and they're very expensive. And I mean, they're worth the money, man. Like, they look fantastic. Have you ever seen a bad Todd McFarlane action figure?
No, I mean, I've seen action figures for stuff that I had no idea what it was. But other than that,
Yeah.
I'm like,
But they
whatever.
always look great. They
Yeah.
always look cool.
I'm like, whatever that is, it looks awesome. But
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
had a few action figures. Starting, I mean, I was into Kiss for like 1 month, and I got myself a Gene
Ooh,
Simmons.
like the music?
More of the look, I'd say, more from the Todd McFarlane stuff, just because
Okay.
they look, because the music
Maybe you
sucks.
just thought. Maybe you just thought you were gonna get little smooches or something.
From who? From like Gene
from
Simmons action
I
figure?
don't know. I don't know. Maybe like Kiss, and you're like, "Ooh, I'd like a Kiss."
Oh god. I mean, as a bass player in high school, I mean, there's only like so many, bass players to idolize, who are also lead singers. I know, I'm just making excuses. Anyway, I had a few of those, and I remember I had a manga Dead Spawn, which was pretty cool looking. I don't think that was ever anything in the comics. I don't know, and a few side characters. I don't know. Really nothing that was too important. But yeah, those figures just keep looking cooler and cooler. But anyway, on with the animated series. So we are watching the pilot episode, which is titled "Burning Visions." And Spawn ran for 3 seasons, as I believe Yahel mentioned, ran from 1997 to 1999. And the pilot episode premiered May 16th, 1997. So obviously you didn't catch the premiere on HBO, because I know I didn't.
No, I did not. Did not have HBO. Like you said, you caught it a couple of times during the free previews. I might have watched a bit of one or something like that, but yeah, this is the first time I watched like a full episode for sure.
Gotcha. And before we dig too much deeper, I have a question for you. What superheroes would you say, or would you think maybe Todd McFarlane combined in order to make a Spawn? Because I have a few ideas.
I mean, I know he obviously doesn't have like spider powers, but his look always felt very Spider-Man-esque to me.
Venomy, sure.
Yeah. Now that may be because Todd McFarlane came from doing like a long run of Spider-Man. I think Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, he created Venom, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, I really didn't see it, so I'm curious to hear what you think is the amalgamation
All
of
right. It's
characters.
a 3-part amalgamation, if you will. 1 part Ghost Rider, 1 part Batman, and 1 part Punisher.
Okay, so funny enough, in the chat, Stry said Spider-Man, Punisher, and Doctor Strange.
Oh, because of the cape. Yeah, I can see that. That's a good trio there.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Doctor Strange too, since I know you. That's one of your favorite characters, and he's got that big ass cape.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I'm thinking about just sort of, I don't know, the origin and kind of like the core beliefs of Spawn, if he even has any. I just don't see Doctor Strange doing any of that. Because, like, Spawn is not exactly a magician or a scientist-y type. He's like,
Right.
Punisher with a Batman, I guess a Batman / Doctor Strange cape. And Ghost Rider, who made a deal with the devil. But anyway,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I don't feel like he's overtly like when we looked at Youngblood, there were some characters that we were like, oh, this feels like this version of this character from Marvel or whatever. And so I at least like don't it doesn't feel like it's ripped off of anything. And really by the time you get to the 90s and really even the 80s, like it's hard to create like an original superhero character that isn't going to have powers or something that feels at least derivative of somebody else's work.
Yeah, nor was I implying that he was derivative. I mean, after all, Batman is just a combination of Dracula and Sherlock Holmes. So, I mean, yeah, we're just playing a game here. No insults to Spawn. I know you love him so much.
I don't think Todd's listening. It's fine. He's busy. He's in his purple hellscape drawing right now. Don't worry. It's fine.
He's probably yelling at the Indonesian kids who are making the action figures somewhere. But all right. So for the pilot episode, I have the synopsis right here, and basically it's a pretty lamely written synopsis, but here it is. Pilot episode of this adults-only animated series about a CIA hitman whose death causes him to seal a deal with the devil, but the devil transforms him into Hellspawn, a dark warrior who battles the forces of evil on the earth and in himself. Yep, for whatever reason, I couldn't find the director on IMDb. Maybe we'll come back to that later, but it's for the writer who probably did as little as Todd would allow him to do. It's Alan B. McElroy, who also developed this for television. And he is best known for writing pretty much a bunch of crap, but famous crap. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Spawn the movie, 21 Jump Street, the TV show, and I couldn't leave out Star Trek Discovery, And of course, the Marine.
The worst Star Trek show of the entire franchise.
That was for you, buddy. The Marine,
Thanks.
Wrong Turn. And here's another one for you, Yahel. Left Behind.
Oh wow!
Oh, this guy's all over the place.
Yeah, he'll do. He's obviously like a paid mercenary. He'll write whatever. He went from writing a comic book about a demonic superhero to writing about Kirk Cameron's Christian fantasies of everybody on Earth being murdered by Jesus.
Right. And of course, we have Todd McFarlane. And basically, if you click on his IMDb, it just anytime like his characters get used in a video game or anything, I guess he gets a credit. Something that I thought was interesting that was, I guess there's a Sam and Twitch TV series in development, and you saw Sam and Twitch in this pilot. They are the two cops who are like investigating. Yeah. So you know who they are. You've obviously read more Spawn than I have. And he also gets credit on Ultimate Spider-Man because I guess Venom shows up in there. The aforementioned Kiss Psycho Circus video game. And yeah, that's basically that. And the production companies are HBO Animation, Image Comics, and McFarlane Films. Ooh, I wonder how many other films they made besides Spawn-related stuff. And a quick question: as a Spawn fanboy that you've admitted to the universe here,
fanboy, okay.
Are you excited for the possible reboot?
I didn't know that there was a. I saw that in the notes that you were going to ask me.
Oh, you didn't
I read
know
the
about
format,
it?
Steve.
Oh,
no,
wow.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx supposedly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Jamie Foxx. I think he's a good actor, and yeah, I think he's actually a really good choice.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like stripped down, low budget, like Blumhouse version. So,
but you don't really need a big budget for Spawn per se, because the thing is, like in the comic books, I don't know if you know this or you remember, but Spawn, and I may be misremembering this a little bit, but Spawn doesn't really use his powers that often,
right?
Because there was like this timer thing that would come up in the comics, and he's got like basically the more he uses his powers, like the closer to death he gets, or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I remember like he would like try to not use his powers, and like I said, I mean, I read Spawn pretty regularly, maybe like the first like 24 issues, something like that, and then after that I was just kind of like sporadically reading it. So that may have changed down the line at some point, because I don't think like that's like not a good long-term plan. Basically, if you unless you're planning to have a series with like a definite beginning and end or something.
And that's one of my sort of problems with Spawn, the character, is that it seems like, first off, it's not fun to be him because he's freaking homeless. He has all this power and he's homeless, and there's really no way for him to ever like, I mean, what's the end game for Spawn? To like go to heaven? Like if he does enough good things, he gets to go to heaven? Like,
well, I mean, no, I mean the end game for him is he wants to get his life back. He wants to get back with Wanda.
Right? Is that even possible?
I mean, so from what I remember, a lot of Spawn deals with him finding out like exactly how he died, and if I remember right, like his best friend ended up like betraying him.
Sure, that's right here in the pilot.
And getting him killed, and the pilot follows the comic book pretty closely from what I remember. So and then there's like other stuff too, like there's like other Spawns, there's like a God Spawn too that's like from heaven. I can't remember what that one was called. So there's a bunch, like it goes like in a bunch of different directions, like a medieval Spawn.
See, that I liked. I remember I liked medieval Spawn quite a bit just because I thought he looked awesome.
Yeah, and there is like a time when, like, now that I'm remembering, like I think Spawn does, I mean, technically he's already dead, but I think he like dies again at some point, and he has to go. He's like in like hell, but there's like a jail cell with a bunch of other characters, like comic book characters from other companies. And I remember this was like a big controversy thing because so Todd McFarlane, obviously he can't sit there and draw Batman, right? In his Spawn comic book, but like it was like a jail cell, and you'd see like their hands, like of these comic book characters like sticking out through. So it would be like Batman's like classic, like thin hand, those kind of things. So it was like, I think Aquaman was in there. So there's a bunch of different characters. And this was like right after Superman had died, and he hadn't like come back yet. And there was like the silhouette of a guy in a blue suit. You couldn't, just the shadows covering like, the the S and stuff, but you can see the red cape, and it was just him whispering Doomsday. And it's actually, I remember like the book was like super, super cool, but it was like very meta. But yeah, anyways, as far as the end game for Spawn, I mean, I don't know like what they ended up doing long term
right. I
with
mean,
him,
it's
but
still going today anyway. But like they just had a big crowdfunder. I think it's for like Spawn, I don't know, 300 or 400 or something like that. Now there's like a whole bunch of them. There's like a Spawn with a top hat who looks really stupid, and a lady Spawn, and I don't know what the other Spawns are, but apparently it did really well. So I guess the fan base is still there. Why don't you take us?
And by the way,
continue.
Stry in the chat, I think Stry may be a bigger Spawn fan than both of us, or at least with a better memory. He said that Spawn is Hellspawn, which they mentioned on that pilot here, but Heaven Spawn is called Angel Spawn, which I do remember now, and there's also an anti-Spawn.
Of course.
And I'm remembering, the more we talk about this, that at one point Spawn, or Al Simmons or whatever, he gets revived like as in human form.
Okay.
And like God talks to him, and like God is a dog. Like God either takes the form of a dog or something like that, but I remember he tells him that Wanda like died and Wanda went to hell, and then Al has to go to hell and fight Satan to save his wife, which that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
but
very.
I think like God, and I want to say like God and the devil are like twins, in the world of Spawn or something like that. But
did you want to take us through the cast?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, the voice of Spawn, we have the incomparable Keith David, who I love. Keith David.
Absolutely, he was in the classic Roddy Piper / John Carpenter film They Live.
Yeah, he's in They Live, in that crazy long ass fight scene. He's in The Thing, Armageddon. I mean, this guy is like working nonstop. He's got a shit ton of things like in pre-production. He does a lot of voiceover work, but he does a lot of live action stuff too. He's a great actor. I didn't know this, but he's like a regular on Rick and Morty.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, don't forget the voice of Goliath from Gargoyles.
Oh, that's another good one too. Yeah, I mean, we could sit here like all day and talk about like...
He'll probably outlive us all.
Yeah. No, he's awesome. He's got 349 credits on IMDb, which is insane. Insane amount of credits. Anyways, then we've got Richard Dysart as Cogliostro. He was also in The Thing, which I thought was interesting. He has not worked since 2002. Maybe he's dead. I don't know.
Possible he's in hell with Wanda.
Right? Oh my God. All right. So then, as the voice of Wanda, we have Dominique Jennings. She was in Die Hard and Die Hard 2. And there were a couple other people in Die Hard, but I hate to admit it, but I recognized her from Sunset Beach, which I don't even know like why I knew she was in Sunset Beach, which I think was like I don't know if it was a soap opera or not, but I just remember it aired like really late where I lived. I think maybe because they had some steamy scenes or something.
I don't even know what Sunset Beach is.
No, it's not worth it. That's what it is.
Okay.
Then we've got Michael Nicolosi as the clown. Which, what did you think about his performance as the clown? And did it remind you of anything?
I mean, I thought it's his performance and John Leguizamo's are kind of on the same page, I would say, at least in terms of the voice and everything. And who did it remind? It didn't really remind me of anything, to be honest.
At first, it reminded me a little bit of the Joker from Batman the Animated Series, but then he like kind of does his own thing.
I never got any Joker vibes. I mean, usually I pick up on Joker ripoffs, but I didn't really.
Oh no, I definitely don't think it's a ripoff. But like at first, I was afraid that that's what it was going to be. But then it quickly turned into its own thing. I thought like, I mean, Keith David obviously does a stellar job. Right. That guy couldn't do a bad performance if he tried.
He could read the phone book, and probably get paid to do it.
WWE hires him to do like voiceovers for their documentaries all the time.
Oh, nice.
And it makes their very tepid documentaries seem like so good because it's Keith David doing it. Worth every penny. But yeah, I thought he like outside of Keith, I thought he had like one of the better performances.
Sure.
But then we've got Victor Love as Terry Fitzgerald. I believe that was Spawn's best friend, if I remember correctly. Anyways, I don't want to go through everybody here, but I do want to point out that we've got Ronnie Cox from RoboCop. That's I think where a lot of people recognize him from. He was like the big CEO or whatever of that company. Bad guy who's in Total Recall. He's also in 2 episodes, Steve, of a little show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. 2 of the best episodes. He's Captain Jellicoe, who temporarily takes over as captain of the Enterprise for 2 episodes while Picard is naked and being tortured.
I bet you you rewind that clip quite a bit, over and over.
Yes, it's the infamous There Are 4 Lights episodes.
Shall I do it?
You better do it. He's the only one.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
Fantastic. Well done, buddy.
The only other person I did want to point out in the cast, 'cause, I mean, this is like a pretty big cast, but Charles Adler, who's come up on our show before, I just want to point him out. He is the voice of Starscream these days, I think is what he's more known for. He's come up a few times, but he does a bunch of voiceover work. But yeah, another really good guy in terms of an actor. What he's credited as doing this episode is just additional voices.
Hey, good for him. That must have been a nice little paycheck.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, should we get into it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we open on Todd McFarlane sits drawing issues of Spawn in the attic of his dungeon? Or wait, why would you have an attic in a dungeon?
Sex dungeon.
Yeah. He then gives a Garth Marenghi-style monologue, which we already talked about. Yeah, that's probably the campiest thing about this entire show. Like, after that, I mean, it's pretty good. So roll opening credits over creepy ambient music. The lady, I thought I put her name down. The lady who does the music for this, she originally worked on Batman the Animated Series. I did a lot of the orchestrations, and it was written that Todd requested that she do organic electronic music for the background.
Wow, that's almost his version of Based on Melodies Whistled by Garth Marenghi.
It is. Yeah, for sure.
For those that don't know, the music in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, like in the opening credits, it says that it's based on melodies whistled by Garth Marenghi. So
check it out.
Maybe he did draw inspiration from this. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think Todd McFarlane only draws inspiration from himself. Come on. So now we see this.
Oh, I mean Garth Marenghi.
Right.
The Garth Marenghi show. Maybe they drew inspiration from Todd here.
Gotcha. So they show the Spawn logo, and it's pretty sweet. And then they show, I guess Yahel mentioned the Spawn countdown clock. They show that, but of course, you probably have no idea what it is if you've never read Spawn before. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but now it makes sense. So and then we get a close up on what's his name again? Cagliostro, the hobo. And he's basically just talking about human souls and whatnot. He's the narrator of Spawn here, the animated series. Then we pan over the bodies of other sleeping hobos, and then we see a man in a trench coat and a fedora. He's smoking a cig, and he's got a gun. Then he throws out the cigarette, and in like classic cliche 90s John Woo slow motion fashion, like we get 3 cuts of the cigarette falling to the ground, because like everybody did that in the 90s. Like, I don't know, did that feel sort of like cliche or contrived to you when you saw that?
I mean, I expected it. I mean, I guess at this point it's more nostalgic than
right.
anything.
I mean, it's not terrible. I just sort of giggled at it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
I see what you're doing. All right,
Yeah.
So then we see 2 reporters. They walk the alleyways talking about their source. They come upon the source, and he looks freaked out. They reveal themselves as Dave and Kenny. I shouldn't have even written down their names because they're done away with pretty quickly. The source is then shot through the heart by the trench-coated man. One reporter then takes a shotgun to the head by another shadowy character. Cut to a shot of Spawn hanging out above them by a cross. Then the other reporter tries to run, but he's shot in the leg. Trenchcoat guy sticks a gun in the reporter's mouth and asks who else knows about whatever. And as you can see, this is definitely a show for kids if you've never seen it before. So then another dude shows up and they cover another bad guy shows up. They cover the reporter in gas. They're about to burn him when Spawn shows up. Oh, thank goodness. He'll save this reporter. He says, let him go. And then he grabs one of the bad guys. The bad guy holding the lighter, because I guess I left out this part. So they doused him in gasoline, and the guy clicks open his Zippo, and there's a nice big flame there. And so Spawn shows up. The bad guy holding the lighter drops it. And once again, in super slow-mo, it falls through the air, but as it hits the ground, it snaps shut. Again, I mean, these shots are just like, I feel like they're just like, look at how cool we are. It's when they do those things.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of, look at how good this animation is, kind of.
Right.
But whatever. I mean, the animation is like really well done. So
Sure. So one of the bad guys...
It's very cinematic, especially for a 90s cartoon.
And Todd McFarlane wants you to know that it is, even if you're the dumbest hick in Hicksville. So one of the bad guys shoots at Spawn. Spawn uses his chains to throw the guy into the windshield of a car. Another bad guy tries to shoot Spawn, but he grabs his arm. He breaks the arm, forcing the guy to aim the gun at his own head like this. And of course, our hero, Spawn, forces him to pull the trigger, thus ending his own life. What a role model. Then the report...
He's an anti-hero, right?
Right, of course. Only in the 90s could something like Spawn rise to prominence. So the reporter, this part was kind of stupid. Not stupid, I shouldn't use that word. Maybe just not really needed, but whatever, it happened. The reporter shoots at Spawn because he's so scared, and Spawn is like, I wouldn't do that. And the spark from the gun ignites the gas in his shirt, and then he ends up burning anyway. And as he's burning, Spawn sees a montage of images, including his wife, Violator, aka the clown guy, and then Spawn gets mad and sort of just yells. So in walks Violator in clown form. He calls Spawn a hell spawn and says he's a killer. And then Spawn says he can't remember anything. He looks at his reflection in a puddle of gas, and he takes off his mask and he sees his hamburger underneath, which is very reminiscent of Deadpool, I'd say.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Spawn, when he was a human, he was burned alive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was.
So his face looks all burned. But I wonder, would he look like that anyways, like just since he was dead and went to hell? Or does he look that way because his body was burned?
Good questions. We'll have to ask one Todd McFarlane next time we see him. So any comments about all that stuff that we just
no, again, it's a good little intro to Spawn. The animation, like we mentioned, it's really good, especially for I think out of all of the 90s animated stuff that we've watched, this has the highest quality animation.
Oh, sure. Like the other stuff is, just Saturday morning. I was one bit of trivia is that for the first season, they gave him $60 million to make it for the first season. And that's 90s $60 million, which is
that's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
That'd be like 100. That'd be like giving him 100 million now or something, or 110 million. And that's literally the budget for the Halo TV show that they just did.
Right.
100 million. So that's pretty crazy.
Did you watch that by any chance?
I actually did. I just finished it last week.
Any good?
I mean,
all right, we'll continue with Spawn. Okay, here we go. So
yeah, it's not. I think it doesn't follow the story of the video game. So I think people that are really, really expecting or wanting it to like follow the video game are going to be very disappointed. They go in some weird directions, but visually, it's fucking stunning. And there's some episodes that have really some of the best action sequences I've seen like on a TV show ever. Really cool stuff.
All
So
right.
I think it's worth watching for the visuals.
All right, we'll see. Speaking
Just
of
leave your brain at the
visuals,
door. Leave your brain at the door is what I'll
man,
say.
that's like every show now. You always have to leave your brain at the door. So, all right.
And it's so weird. People complain about. Sorry to get sidetracked here.
Okay.
People complain about like Halo, the TV show, being woke or whatever, which I hate when people like call stuff woke. I think it's so stupid. But I don't know what the fuck they're talking about because there's literally like a black character, one black. There's like two like kind of like prominent black characters and like one prominent Asian character, which is like a pretty crappy character. The actress is great, but the character is just not well written. But guess what, baby? No one's well written on this show.
Well, I'm glad they gave equally bad writing to everyone.
Yeah,
Now that's diversity.
exactly.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So, anyways, back to Spawn.
All right. So a wino offers Spawn help as well as a drink. Then a smart hobo tells Spawn it doesn't matter if he doesn't remember. Cut to Sam and Twitch from the CSU investigate Spawn's victims from the scene we just witnessed. Sam asks Twitch to find a connection to all the murders. Then we cut to outside day in a nice neighborhood, and Spawn stalks his old wife's house, RoboCop style. He sees that she's married his best friend and has a kid. Violator then shows up and antagonizes Spawn. Always a good idea to make Spawn angry. Tells him he's been dead for 5 years and he went to hell. Cut to a graveyard at night. Spawn, did I mention Spawn? He digs up. He's digging at the gravestone of Al Simmons, and sure enough, he gets all the way down and pops open the old corpse case. Inside is Al Simmons' corpse. He has
corpse case, a coffin.
Yeah, there you go. I call it a corpse case. Where I come from, that's what we call it.
Yeah, no, it's good. Rebranding death. It's good. It's been too long has the funeral industry been sitting on its resting on its laurels. You know, it's time to rebrand, make it sexier.
Hey, well, that's what Todd McFarlane did with Hell. I mean,
yeah.
He flashes back.
Just to add a little bit of context, the reason why Spawn, for our listeners, the reason why Spawn is digging up his body is because he's still having trouble like coming to grips with everything he's seen. With Wanda being remarried, he's having trouble accepting that he's dead. So he's digging up his own body. He needs to see like that he was really dead and buried.
Just like one Alex Murphy. I've got RoboCop on the brain. I don't know why. Okay, he flashes back as he's looking at his rotted corpse. He flashes back about missions that he did. Then he rips off his own like corpse's finger and takes the wedding ring off of it. His corpse then begins to talk to him. I guess you could assume that he's, possibly hallucinating, or the violator or the devil himself is talking through the corpse and tells him that he cut a deal with his soul and it's time to pay the piper. Now,
I assume it's supposed to be the devil talking.
Sure. I mean, the devil,
and I do like that because it's. I don't know. Like I feel like. It's very easy to empathize with Spawn, the character, at this point.
Oh, and sure.
Yeah, and I love how it's the classic, like, oh, the devil made a deal and he gave you what he said he was going to, but he did it in a fucked up way, which is the deal that the devil made was like, yeah, you can see Wanda again, and in exchange you have to be the Hell Spawn. He's like, well, now you saw her. You saw that she's screwing your best friend and has a kid with him, so... See, I held up my end of the bargain.
The big difference between Spawn and Ghost Rider is that at least Ghost Rider got a kick-ass bike out of the deal. And what did Spawn get? He got to be homeless with chains and hobos. But
yeah, but Spawn like becomes really powerful later on, from what I remember. Because I was reading a little bit because I was like, we talked about the countdown, and I was like, I'm sure the countdown goes away at some point or something like that. And what it is that he ends up figuring out ways to replenish the nectoplasm, which is what the countdown is for.
Of course.
And at one point he like gets so much, he like gets so powerful, he gets so much of this stuff that he becomes more powerful than God and Satan. and he's able to like defy them, and like he like holds off Armageddon single-handedly, and like recreates the world himself or something.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
Do you think he was enjoying being Spawn at that point?
I would assume.
Because that's my theory. My theory is that it's not fun to be Spawn. Now, I might be wrong. I just haven't read enough, but that's just how I view
it's
the
not
character.
fun at first, but like he's like a very like driven person.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
And-
basically the Count of Monte Cristo, because it's like it's a big revenge story, and yeah, and also
I mean,
what's that thing where they make a deal with the devil? That classic. They made a video game out of it. Oh well, it's not important.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, Spawn, he obviously like wants to at least continue living as Spawn, because in the comic book before, like he's able to replenish his necroplasm, excuse me. He, once he realizes, oh, my powers are finite, and once I use them all up, I'll have to go to hell permanently. He stops using his powers unless he has to. So he obviously like wants to like hang around.
Right, and that was his excuse for being able to use guns, because he can't use all the power. Yeah, great excuse to have guns. I like that. So, cut to a man at a desk. Obviously, it's a government man, because there's an American flag on his desk and everything. And he talks on a phone to a naked fat guy while two girls make out on the couch. The guy's pacing around. He's very angry. He says that he's mad that his men were killed by Spawn, and he thinks it's a government-trained assassin. And the government guy is like, no, that's not possible. Like, we're working together, blah, blah, blah. So these are obviously bad dudes who are conspiring to do stuff. So we cut to an alleyway. Some cops, they hold up a guy and they say, oh, well, if it isn't our friendly, like, internal affairs officer. And they start beating him down. Because they don't like, internal affairs. There's always squealing on corrupt cops. And then Spawn shows up. He stops them. And they try to shoot at him, but it doesn't stop Spawn. And then they sort of pan over. Violator is hanging around in the back. He kills and then kisses a rat. And that is the end of the episode. Did I miss anything? It's very decompressed. It's decompressed storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, like you said, a lot of it is like flashbacks and stuff. And a lot of it is like Spawn brooding, like kind of like it's very atmospheric. I would say it reminds me a bit of Batman the Animated Series in that way. And I actually, while watching this, I wonder if, like, how Batman the Animated Series, they drew it like on black paper to give it like its distinctive look.
Actually, this is the first I've ever heard of that, but interesting.
Yeah, so I wonder if they did the same thing, because everything has like this dark, kind of
it's like
look.
I'm pretty sure old Todd was like, I want to make Batman the Animated Series, but like even darker with hookers and boobs, and hence Todd McFarlane.
Hookers and boobs.
Well, I said booze, but sure, boobs. But
boobs as well. Yeah.
Either way, it's all in there. Yeah, I mean, you wanted to make a animation or animated show for adults, and I'd say mission accomplished. Anything else to add about the episode?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. This is just an episode more about establishing who Spawn is. It's his origin story, kind of, but you don't get the full origin, which I like. They leave a little bit of stuff up in the air. But yeah, are you ready to render a verdict on this one?
Yeah, let's wait. Whoa, slow down and let me run the bumpers I worked so hard on.
No, I the bumper.
Ready to go? That's the question.
All right, since you're the Spawn, Mark, you can ask me first.
All right, Steve. So, what do you think, Steve? Should Todd McFarlane's Spawn?
Oh, good job. Good catch.
Yeah. Be preserved for eternity, or tossed into the bin of I don't know the whole spiel that you do, but should we keep it? It's remembered forever, Steve, or toss it in the bin of obscurity to be forgotten for all time?
Well, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Spawn, the character, I mean, this show is awesome, and I always liked it. I mean, if anything, I think it's like a sort of, I don't know, a time capsule where I feel like in North America, or at least in the US itself, people were actually taking animation seriously instead of, oh, cartoons are for kids, or, oh, cartoons, that means Disney, right? And yeah, and I mean, the quality is just like mostly with everything that Todd McFarlane does. It's just, quality is off the chain, if I could quote Guy Fieri. Wow. It took me to Flavor Town.
Wow.
It barbecued me because no, the show's great. The way the story unfolds is awesome. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this on TV or I guess streaming. Like the closest thing I could say is did you ever watch Love, Death, and Robots? That show that came on Netflix?
Not yet, and I know a guy that worked on it.
Yeah, that's I mean, that was, the first season's great, second season in, they just came out with the third one that's pretty good. But of course, that's an anthology tale, not a serialized tale like Spawn here. But
right.
But yeah, so of course, save it. It's a fantastic show.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in the chat, Stry also said to remember it.
What if?
Yeah, it's.
What if we didn't? I wonder what Stry would type.
He'd report the stream to YouTube. No, but yeah, it's a great show. It's just it really pulls you in. Like I said, it's very atmospheric. The story unfolds in a really it's such a quick watch too, man. It's like 27 minutes, but it felt like 10 minutes. Like
right, yeah,
it
good
flies
pace.
by.
Mm-hmm. The only thing they could do without is those stupid intros by Todd McFarlane.
But they have like their own like charm, and,
sure.
and they're pretty short.
It's
I mean,
something
it was
to
like
make fun of.
It's like a minute long or
right.
whatever,
It doesn't ruin the show or anything. But I remember the first time I watched this, and I was like, and he showed up, I was like, I thought I was watching a cartoon, not some idiot draw stuff and talk to the camera.
I wonder if, because like you mentioned, animation wasn't taken as something seriously for adults back then, if they were like, oh, we need to have like a live action intro, a person like to kind of be like, hey, this is for adults. You know what I mean? Rather than just like have it boom straight off into animation.
Was trying so hard to be a live action Tales from the Crypt is what Stry writes. Yeah, I could see that. It's a little bit of Twilight Zone, and of course Garth Marenghi's Dark Place back from 1982.
And in the 90s, I mean, this was a very typical thing for like horror anthology shows in particular. Would have like an intro with like a host or something, setting things up for like a minute or two, and then they'd go into like their anthology stories or whatever. So this is also kind of like I feel like very of the time to have like a little intro separate from the main show. But yeah, I say remember it as well.
All right.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be forgetting Spawn, the animated series, anytime soon. And I guess not the comics either, because as I said before, they're still coming out. And I mean, they look cool. I don't know. I just don't know why, like, the Spawn, it's just like too fantastic. It's like, it's not enough that you're an assassin. You also have to be from hell and have all this crazy crap. I don't know. It's just
But I am genuinely surprised that you're not into the comics, especially if you liked the TV show, because I mean, this follows, at least this first episode, I mean, it follows the comic book like exactly.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one day I'll give him a shot. Just Spawn, I find Spawn hard to relate to. That's all.
Oh, wait, but you can relate to like Doctor Strange somehow?
Well, like, yeah, I mean, I feel maybe if I study magic hard enough, then I can become the Sorcerer Supreme. If I go
Spoiler alerts.
if I go to Tibet and meet the right monk, he'll teach me the right magic, and then I'll be the Sorcerer Supreme.
Well, Steve, okay, if you, like Al Simmons, kill enough people, you can go to hell.
But hell, you and I know that hell isn't real.
But we also know magic isn't real. So.
Isn't science magic? All right, I think that's pretty much our show. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, or shall I say Stry, thanks for hanging around and listening. And make sure you look us up on TikTok. And anything else to add before we sign off here, Yahel?
If you look for us on TikTok, it's at Reptilian Media, but the name on the account is Stephen Finite. But so don't be confused. But you'll see a little logo from our YouTube channel as the picture there. And no, if you do want to watch Spawn, the entire series is available on HBO Max.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you next time. All right, the next 2 Sundays are all going to be pre-tapes, Stry. So tell all your friends who show up in the live chat that there won't be another live chat until probably next month. So we'll see you next time on Obscurity Now. Bye, everyone.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.